Welcome to a new video of Mythos at Midnight, where tonight we will be discussing the legend of Kitsune, the fox spirits of Japan. Before we dive in, remember to like, subscribe, and comment which other legends you would like us to make a video about. Let's dive in. Close your eyes and imagine walking through an ancient Japanese forest at twilight. The air is soft and still, filled with the earthy scent of moss and fallen leaves. Shafts of golden light filter through the canopy above, creating dancing patterns on the forest floor. In this magical hour between day and night, when shadows lengthen and reality becomes fluid, you might glimpse something extraordinary. A flash of russet fur disappearing behind a tree, eyes that gleam with intelligence, far beyond what any ordinary animal should possess. Perhaps, if you're very quiet and very lucky, you might witness something that has captivated the Japanese imagination for over 1,000 years, the moment when a fox transforms into something far more mysterious. Tonight, we embark on a journey into the world of Kitsune, the fox spirits of Japan. These are not merely creatures of legend, but beings that embody the very soul of Japanese spirituality and folklore. They are shapeshifters and messengers, tricksters and guardians, lovers and destroyers. They represent the wild wisdom of nature itself and the eternal dance between the human and divine worlds. Let their ancient stories carry you gently towards sleep as we explore tales that have been whispered around Japanese hearths for centuries. Stories that reveal profound truths about love, wisdom, transformation, and the mysterious forces that shape our lives.
To understand the Kitsune, we must journey back through the mists of time to ancient Japan, when the islands were covered in dense forests and humans lived in intimate relationship with the natural world. In those days, foxes were not merely wild animals, but neighbors, sharing the landscape in a complex dance of coexistence. Japanese word kitsune simply means fox. But like many simple words, it carries depths of meaning that can only be appreciated through centuries of cultural development. Some scholars believe the word comes from kitsu, an onomatopoeia for a fox's cry, combined with ne, meaning sound. Others trace it to ancient words meaning to come, perhaps referring to these spirits' ability to appear and disappear at will. The earliest recorded mentions of supernatural foxes appear in the Nihon Shoki, the Chronicles of Japan, written in the 8th century. Even then, foxes were seen as beings that existed between worlds, neither fully wild nor fully tamed, neither entirely of this realm nor completely otherworldly. At the heart of Kitsune lore lies their sacred relationship with Inari, one of the most important deities in the Shinto pantheon. Inari is the kami, the divine spirit, of rice, fertility, agriculture, and prosperity. In a nation where rice was quite literally the foundation of civilization, Inari's importance cannot be overstated. Picture ancient Japan's rice fields stretching like mirrors across the landscape, reflecting the sky and clouds. These fields were more than agricultural spaces. They were sacred grounds, where humans worked in harmony with divine forces to sustain life itself. And in these fields, foxes played a crucial role. Foxes naturally hunt the rats and mice that would otherwise destroy rice crops. Their presence meant abundant harvests, full granaries, and survival through the winter months. It was perhaps inevitable that these helpful creatures would be seen as messengers of the rice deity, divine beings sent to ensure humanity's prosperity. Over time, Inari came to be depicted riding on the back of a great white fox, and Inari shrines, more than 30,000 of them across Japan, became guarded by stone fox statues. These statues, called kitsune, sit in pairs at shrine entrances, often holding keys in their mouths, keys to the rice granaries that mean the difference between abundance and famine. As Japanese civilization grew more complex, so too did the understanding of kitsune. They evolved from simple protector spirits into beings of profound complexity, capable of both great kindness and terrible mischief. This transformation reflects humanity's changing relationship with the natural world, from simple dependence to a more nuanced understanding of nature's dual aspects. In Shinto belief, all things possess spirit: rocks and trees, rivers and mountains, and certainly animals as intelligent and adaptable as foxes. But Kitsune came to represent something more: the principle of transformation itself. They embodied the idea that reality is not fixed, that the boundaries between different states of being are fluid and permeable. This understanding would give birth to some of the most enchanting and terrifying stories in Japanese folklore, tales that explore what it means to be human, what it means to be wild, and what happens when these two worlds collide. One of the most distinctive and powerful aspects of Kitsune lore is the belief that these spirits grow additional tails as they age and gain wisdom. A young Kitsune begins life with a single tail, but as centuries pass, it may grow as many as 9, each new tail marking not just the passage of time, but the acquisition of new powers and deeper understanding. The progression is not merely about age, but about spiritual development. A kitsune that has lived for 100 years gains its second tail, and with it, the ability to shapeshift into human form. This transformation is perhaps the most celebrated of all kitsune powers: the ability to take on the appearance of a beautiful woman, an elderly man, or even a specific individual. With each additional tail comes new abilities: the power to see and hear across great distances, the ability to enter dreams, the capacity to control fire, and mastery over illusions so perfect they can fool entire communities. By the time a kitsune has grown 7 tails, it has become a being of considerable supernatural power. And those rare few who achieve 9 tails are said to possess abilities that approach the divine. 9-tailed foxes, called Kyubi no Kitsune, are beings of legend. They can manipulate time and space, become invisible, assume any form they choose, and possess knowledge of past, present, and future. They are so powerful that they are sometimes worshipped as deities in their own right. But how does this transformation occur? Japanese folklore describes it as both an art and a natural expression of the fox's essential nature. Some stories tell of foxes placing human skulls on their heads, magical objects that grant them human form. Others describe the transformation as an act of will, a conscious decision to assume a new shape. Yet even in human form, kitsune often retain subtle traces of their true nature. They may have unusually pointed ears hidden beneath flowing hair, shadows that reveal their true vulpine shape, or eyes that reflect light like an animal's. Some stories claim that kitsune cannot completely hide their tails, and observant humans might catch a glimpse of fox fur beneath a kimono's hem. These imperfections in their disguise serve an important purpose in the folklore. They represent the idea that true nature cannot be completely hidden, that authenticity will always assert itself somehow. They also provide hope for humans who might find themselves ensnared by a malevolent fox. There are always signs for those wise enough to recognize them. Among the most beautiful and mysterious of kitsune powers is their ability to create kitsunebi, foxfire. These are strange, ghostly lights that appear in forests and fields, often moving in ways that defy explanation. They might dance between trees, hover over marshes, or lead travelers along forest paths. Imagine walking through a dark forest when suddenly you see lights flickering between the trees. Not the warm, steady glow of lanterns, but something ethereal and otherworldly. Blues and whites that seem to pulse with their own rhythm, moving with purpose but following no earthly logic. This is kitsunebi, and encountering it is said to be both beautiful and dangerous. Some stories claim these lights are created when kitsune rub their tails together, generating spiritual energy that manifests as visible flame. Others say the lights are projections of the fox spirit's emotions, joy, anger, love, or mischief made manifest in the physical world. Travelers who follow kitsunebi may find themselves led to safety or hopelessly lost, depending on the intentions of the fox spirit creating them. The lights might guide a lost child home, or lure a greedy merchant into a swamp. Like so much in kitsune lore, the fire is neither inherently good nor evil. It simply is, and its effects depend on the character of both the spirit and the human who encounters it. Not all kitsune are tricksters or threats. In fact, some of the most beloved fox spirits in Japanese folklore are the Zenko, literally meaning good foxes. These are the celestial messengers, the divine servants of Inari, the protectors and benefactors of humanity. Zenko are typically depicted with white or golden fur, colors associated with purity and divinity in Japanese culture. They serve as intermediaries between the human and divine worlds, carrying prayers to the gods and bringing blessings to the faithful. When they take human form, it is usually to help rather than to harm. Stories of Zenko often involve them rescuing travelers from bandits, guiding lost children home, or appearing in times of great need to offer aid and comfort. They might take the form of a wise old woman who provides shelter during a storm, or a beautiful maiden who nurses someone back to health. Within the ranks of Zenko, there is said to be a spiritual hierarchy. At the pinnacle are the Tenko, celestial foxes of 9 tails who live in the heavenly realms. Below them are various ranks of lesser but still benevolent spirits. Byakko, white foxes, Ginko, silver foxes, and others, each with their own roles and responsibilities in the cosmic order. On the other side of the kitsune spectrum are the Nogitsune, literally wild foxes or field foxes. These are the independent spirits who serve no deity and follow no rules but their own. They are the tricksters, the shapeshifters who delight in pranks and may cause significant trouble for humans. But it would be wrong to see Nogitsune as simply evil. They are complex beings who embody the untamed aspects of nature, unpredictable, amoral, and operating by their own logic rather than human moral codes. A Nogitsune might play a cruel trick on a greedy merchant, but then help a poor farmer find lost livestock. They are forces of chaos, but chaos can be creative as well as destructive. These wild foxes often target specific types of humans in their tricks. Corrupt priests who have forgotten their spiritual duties, greedy merchants who cheat their customers, boastful drunkards who disturb the peace. In this sense, even their mischief can serve a moral purpose, teaching lessons about humility, honesty, and proper behavior. Nogitsune are also associated with possession, the phenomenon known as kitsune tsuki. They might enter a human's body, particularly that of a young woman, causing unusual behavior, strange speech, or supernatural abilities. Such possessions could last days, months, or even years, and required the intervention of priests or shamans to resolve. The existence of both Zenko and Nogitsune reflects a fundamental principle of Japanese spirituality: the understanding that all forces in nature possess both creative and destructive aspects. Like fire, which can warm a home or burn it down, like water, which can nourish crops or cause devastating floods, kitsune embody the dual nature of power itself. This duality also reflects the Japanese concept of balance, the idea that opposing forces are necessary for harmony. Without the mischievous Nogitsune, the benevolent Zenko would have no meaning. Without the potential for harm, protection would lose its significance. Perhaps most importantly, both types of kitsune serve as mirrors for human nature. The Zenko represent our highest aspirations, our capacity for selflessness, wisdom, and service to others. The Nogitsune embody our shadow aspects, our capacity for selfishness, our love of mischief, our tendency to act on impulse without considering consequences. Among all the tales of Kitsune, none is more famous or more complex than the legend of Tamamo-no-Mae. Her story is epic in scope, spanning centuries and continents, embodying both the seductive power and the terrible danger that Kitsune can represent. The tale begins in the imperial court of 12th century Japan, during the reign of Emperor Konoe. Into this world of refined culture and political intrigue came a woman of extraordinary beauty and intelligence. She appeared to be about 18 years old, with skin like snow and hair like black silk, but it was her mind that truly captivated the court. This woman, who came to be known as Tamamo-no-Mae, Lady Jewel Algae, could answer any question posed to her, no matter how obscure. She could discuss Buddhist philosophy with the monks, debate Confucian ethics with the scholars, compose poetry that moved listeners to tears, and play any musical instrument with perfect skill. The emperor was utterly enchanted. He spent every moment he could in her company, neglecting his other consorts, his advisors, even his governmental duties. Tamamo-no-Mae had become the unofficial empress of Japan, wielding power through her beauty and intelligence that no woman of her supposed station should have possessed. But as the months passed, a strange malady began to afflict the emperor. He grew pale and weak, losing weight and energy despite the best care his physicians could provide. No medicine helped, no treatment brought relief. The court grew desperate as their ruler wasted away before their eyes. It was then that the court's master astrologer, Abe no Yasuchika, made a disturbing discovery. Through divination and careful observation, he determined that the emperor's illness was not natural, but supernatural in origin. The beautiful Tamamo-no-Mae, he declared, was not human at all but a fox spirit, and not just any fox spirit, but a powerful nine-tailed fox whose very presence was draining the emperor's life force. When confronted with these accusations, Tamamo-no-Mae initially denied them. But Abe no Yasuchika proposed a test. She would be required to participate in a powerful Buddhist ritual called the Taizan Fukun no Sai. If she were truly human, the ritual would cause her no distress. If she were a supernatural being, she would be unable to complete it. Tamamo-no-Mae dressed even more beautifully than usual for the ceremony, reciting the holy words perfectly and playing her part with flawless grace. But at the crucial moment, when she was to wave the ceremonial staff, she suddenly vanished, disappearing like mist in a strong wind, confirming Yasuchika's suspicions in the most dramatic way possible. Emperor Konoe, though weakened by his supernatural affliction, immediately ordered the two greatest warriors of the realm to hunt down the fox spirit. Kazusa no Suke and Miura no Suke gathered an army of 80,000 men and set out for the plains of Nasu, where the fox had been seen. Picture these vast grasslands stretching to the horizon, swept by cold winds and dotted with rocky outcroppings. Here, the fox spirit had returned to her true form, a magnificent creature the size of a small horse, with golden fur that seemed to glow with inner fire and 9 magnificent tails that moved like flames in the wind. The hunt was not like pursuing an ordinary animal. Tamamo-no-Mae used all her supernatural powers to evade capture, creating illusions to confuse the hunters, summoning mists to obscure their vision, and disappearing and reappearing at will. For days, the great army searched the plains without success. Finally, the fox spirit appeared to Miura no Suke in a dream. In this vision, she appeared in her beautiful human form, weeping and begging for mercy. "I know you will kill me tomorrow," she said. "I accept my fate, but please make my death swift." The warrior was moved, but remained firm in his resolve. The next morning, just as the dream had foretold, the hunters cornered the great fox. Miura no Suke drew his bow and fired 2 arrows, one striking her flank, the other piercing her neck. As she fell, Kazusa no Suke delivered the final blow with his sword. The mighty Tamamo-no-Mae, the fox who had nearly conquered Japan, was dead. But death was not the end of Tamamo-no-Mae's story. As she died, her malevolent spirit infused itself into a large boulder on the plain where she fell. This stone, known as the Sessho-seki, or killing stone, became a place of terrible power. Any living thing that touched the Sessho-seki would die instantly. Birds that landed on it would fall lifeless. Insects that crawled across its surface would perish immediately. The very air around the stone was poisoned with the fox's rage and malice. For centuries, the killing stone remained a place of death and fear. But eventually, a Buddhist monk named Genno Shinsho came upon it during his travels. When Tamamo-no-Mae's spirit rose from the stone to threaten him, the holy man did not flee. Instead, he spoke to her with compassion, urging her to release her anger and find peace. Moved by his words and his obvious sincerity, the fox spirit finally agreed to let go of her rage. She repented of her evil deeds and departed for the next world to seek redemption. Free of her malevolent influence, the killing stone cracked and split, eventually breaking into hundreds of pieces that scattered across Japan. Even today, visitors can see the remains of the Sessho-seki in Tochigi Prefecture, though its deadly power is long gone. The legend lives on, reminding us that even the most powerful supernatural beings can find redemption, and that compassion can triumph over the deepest hatred. Among the most poignant and enduring of Kitsune tales are those of the foxwife, stories where a fox spirit takes human form and marries a mortal man. These tales, known as Kitsune Nyobo, explore themes of love, identity, sacrifice, and the pain of living between 2 worlds. The basic pattern of these stories is ancient and appears in many cultures, but Japanese versions have their own distinctive character. They often begin with an act of kindness. A man saves an injured fox, or shows compassion to a fox caught in a trap. Later, a beautiful woman appears at his home, claiming to be a traveler in need of shelter. The woman proves to be an ideal companion, beautiful, intelligent, skilled in all domestic arts, and deeply loving. She becomes the man's wife, bears his children, and creates a household filled with happiness and prosperity. For years, sometimes decades, their life together is perfect. But inevitably, the truth is discovered. Perhaps the man glimpses his wife's reflection in water and sees a fox instead of a woman. Perhaps he finds fox fur caught on her comb, or notices that she never eats in his presence. Or, in the cruelest versions, he may spy on her and witness her transformation back to fox form. One of the most beloved foxwife stories is that of Kuzunoha, whose tale is intimately connected to one of Japan's most famous historical figures. The story begins with a young man named Abe no Yasuna, who encounters a beautiful white fox being hunted by a pack of dogs. Yasuna drives off the dogs and tends to the fox's wounds, then releases her into the forest. Soon after, a beautiful woman named Kuzunoha appears at his home, claiming to have been sent by his father to be his bride. They marry and have a son, and for several years live in perfect happiness. Their child proves to be extraordinarily intelligent and spiritually gifted from a very early age. He shows remarkable abilities in Onmyodo, the Japanese esoteric cosmology that combines natural science, exorcism, and divination. It becomes clear that he is destined for greatness. One day, Yasuna returns home unexpectedly and sees his wife in her true form, a beautiful white fox playing with their child. When she realizes she has been discovered, Kuzunoha knows she must leave. The revelation of her true nature threatens not only their marriage, but potentially their child's future in human society. In a scene of profound pathos, Kuzunoha writes a farewell poem and disappears forever, leaving behind her human husband and their half-fox son. Her sacrifice ensures that the boy can remain in the human world and fulfill his destiny, but at the cost of her own happiness. That child grew up to become Abe no Saime, one of the most famous onmyoji in Japanese history, a court astrologer whose supernatural abilities were legendary. His mixed heritage, human father and fox mother, was said to be the source of his extraordinary powers. Fox wife stories operate on multiple levels of meaning. On the surface, they are tales of supernatural romance, but they also explore fundamental questions about identity, belonging, and the nature of love itself. What does it mean to be human? If a fox lives as a human for years, loving and caring for a human family, at what point does she become human in any meaningful sense? These stories suggest that identity is not fixed but fluid, and that behavior and emotion may be more important than physical form. They also ask whether true love can exist between beings of different natures. The foxwives in these stories are not deceptive in their love. Their affection for their husbands and children is genuine and profound. The tragedy comes not from false love, but from a society that cannot accept love across the boundaries of species and realm. Many of these tales emphasize the maternal aspect of the foxwife's love. She is willing to sacrifice her own happiness, even her own identity, to ensure the welfare of her children. This reflects the Japanese cultural ideal of maternal self-sacrifice, while also suggesting something universal about the nature of parental love. The most enlightened humans in these stories are those who, upon discovering their wife's true nature, choose love over convention. They accept their foxwives as they are, creating space for the magical and supernatural in their everyday lives. These men are rewarded with continued happiness, while those who reject their wives face lifelong regret. As our journey through Kitsune lore continues, we discover that different regions of Japan have developed their own unique variations of fox spirit stories, each reflecting local geography, culture, and concerns. On the island of Shikoku, for example, tales speak of sea foxes who emerge from coastal waters. These ocean-dwelling kitsune take the form of beautiful women who appear near fishing villages, often rising from the waves like ancient sea goddesses. They might help fishermen by guiding their boats to rich fishing grounds, or they might lure sailors to their doom on rocky shores. The prevalence of sea fox stories in coastal regions reflects the intimate relationship between these communities and the ocean. Just as rice farmers needed the protection of land-dwelling foxes, fishermen required the aid of supernatural forces that understood the sea's dangers and gifts. In the mountainous regions of northern Japan, where winters are harsh and the wilderness remains largely untamed, kitsune stories take on different characteristics. Here, fox spirits are more closely associated with the raw power of nature and the challenges of survival in extreme conditions. Northern kitsune are often described as larger and more powerful than their southern cousins, reflecting the demands of their harsh environment. They might appear to lost travelers as guides through blizzards, or as providers of food during times of scarcity. Some northern stories describe kitsune working in partnership with local shamans and mountain ascetics, serving as spiritual allies in practices designed to commune with the natural world. These tales reflect the influence of Shugendo, the syncretic religion that combines Shinto animism with Buddhist and Taoist practices. Even as Japan modernized and urbanized, Kitsune legends evolved to reflect new realities. In cities, fox spirits might take the form of perfectly dressed businesswomen who appear on train platforms, or beautiful students who attend universities but never seem to age. Modern Kitsune stories sometimes incorporate contemporary technology. Fox spirits who can manipulate electronic devices appear in photographs with unexplained anomalies, or send mysterious messages through social media. These adaptations show how ancient archetypal patterns continue to find expression in new forms. Some contemporary tales position Kitsune as protectors of remaining natural spaces within urban environments, guardian spirits of parks and green spaces who work to preserve nature within increasingly developed landscapes. In certain regions, particularly around Izumo province, there developed beliefs about families who maintained hereditary relationships with fox spirits, the Kitsune mochi, or fox owners. These families were said to have tamed fox spirits that served them for generations. The relationship between Kitsune mochi families and their communities was complex and often tense. On one hand, these families might be sought out for their fox spirits' ability to divine the future, find lost objects, or provide protection. On the other hand, they might be feared and avoided, suspected of using their fox allies for cursing enemies or gaining unfair advantages. Remarkably, beliefs about Kitsune mochi families persisted well into the modern era. Even today, some families in rural Japan carry reputations as fox owners, and prospective spouses may be wary of marrying into such lineages. Not all regional variations focus on trickery or danger. In many areas, Kitsune are revered as healers and oracles. Fox spirits might possess shrine maidens, miko, during religious ceremonies, speaking through them to provide guidance and prophecy. These possessed miko, known as itako in northern Japan, would enter trance states and serve as mediums through which fox spirits could communicate with humans. The spirits might offer healing advice, help resolve family disputes, or provide comfort to those grieving lost loved ones. Unlike the formal hierarchy of official Shinto priests, these fox spirit mediums were often more accessible to common people, providing spiritual services to those who might otherwise have no access to religious guidance. Traditional Japanese mysticism recognizes 13 different types of kitsune, each associated with a specific element or force of nature. This classification system reflects the sophisticated understanding of natural forces that developed within Japanese spiritual traditions. At the pinnacle of this system stands the Tenko, the celestial fox, associated with heavenly forces and divine wisdom. These are the nine-tailed foxes who have transcended earthly concerns and achieved something approaching godhood. They are said to live in the sky itself, manifesting only to deliver messages of the utmost importance. The Chikyu Kitsune, or earth fox, represents stability, endurance, and the foundational forces that support all life. These spirits are associated with fertile soil, abundant harvests, and the solid ground beneath our feet. They might appear to farmers and gardeners, offering guidance on cultivation and land management. Water-associated foxes include both the Kawa Kitsune, river fox, and the Umi Kitsune, ocean fox. River foxes are often gentler spirits, associated with the life-giving properties of fresh water, while ocean foxes embody the vast, untamable power of the sea. Among the most feared are the Kasai Kitsune, the fire foxes, who command the element that can both create and destroy. These spirits might appear during house fires, sometimes as saviors who guide people to safety, sometimes as the supernatural cause of the conflagration itself. Thunder foxes, or Kaminari Kitsune, are associated with storms and atmospheric disturbances. They might manifest during particularly violent thunderstorms, their supernatural presence felt in lightning that strikes in unusual patterns, or thunder that seems to carry voices. Wind foxes, the Kaze Kitsune, embody the restless energy of air in motion. They are associated with sudden gusts that extinguish candles at crucial moments, with whirlwinds that appear on clear days, and with the kind of persistent wind that can drive a person to distraction. Perhaps the most mysterious of all are the Toki Kitsune, the time foxes. These extraordinarily rare spirits are said to possess the ability to manipulate time itself, slowing it, accelerating it, or even moving backward through it. Encounters with time foxes might result in experiences where minutes feel like hours, or where years pass like moments. Oto Kitsune, or sound foxes, are associated with auditory phenomena. Phantom music that plays with no source, voices that speak from empty rooms, or sounds that convey meaning without words. They might help musicians achieve perfect pitch, or drive enemies mad with constantly ringing ears. The most enigmatic of all are the Kuko, the void foxes, associated with emptiness and nothingness. These spirits are said to exist in the spaces between spaces, in the silence between sounds, in the darkness between lights. They are almost never encountered directly, but their presence might be felt as profound stillness or inexplicable absence. The classification of foxes by element reflects the Japanese understanding that all natural forces are interconnected. A single kitsune might not be limited to one element, but could command several, with their primary elemental affiliation determining their basic nature and tendencies. As kitsune grow in age and wisdom, they might develop connections to additional elements. A young river fox might, over centuries, also gain influence over earth and wind, eventually becoming a multi-elemental spirit of considerable power and complexity. Understanding these elemental associations was considered crucial for anyone who might encounter kitsune. Knowing whether you faced a fire fox or a water fox could mean the difference between successful negotiation and supernatural disaster. Throughout Japanese folklore, knowledge of how to recognize a kitsune in human form was considered essential wisdom. These shape-shifting spirits might be benevolent helpers or dangerous tricksters, but in either case, knowing their true nature was crucial for appropriate interaction. The most commonly mentioned telltale sign was the inability to completely hide their tail. Even in perfect human form, a kitsune might have a fox tail visible beneath their clothing, or their shadow might reveal their true shape. Careful observation of reflections in water or mirrors might also reveal fox features that weren't visible in direct sight. More subtle signs included behavioral quirks that reflected their fox nature. A kitsune in human form might be unable to resist the smell of fried tofu, aburage, might display an unusual fear of dogs, or might show knowledge or abilities that seemed impossible for someone of their apparent age and background. Sometimes linguistic clues would give them away. A kitsune might use archaic speech patterns that revealed their true age, or might let slip knowledge of events from decades or centuries past. Their voice might occasionally take on an otherworldly quality, especially when they were emotional or off guard. For those who wished to protect themselves from malevolent fox spirits, traditional Japanese culture offered several methods. Iron was believed to be particularly effective. Carrying iron objects or wearing iron jewelry could repel hostile kitsune or disrupt their illusions. Sacred objects and prayers provided another line of defense. Buddhist sutras, Shinto purification rituals, and protective amulets, omamori, could all be used to ward off supernatural threats. Many people carried small mirrors, as these were said to force shape-shifting spirits to reveal their true forms. Certain plants were also considered protective. Mountain ash, bamboo grass, and specific types of salt were believed to create barriers that fox spirits could not cross. Scattering these materials around one's home or carrying them while traveling provided mobile protection. Perhaps most importantly, proper behavior toward all foxes, both natural and supernatural, was seen as the best protection. Those who showed respect for foxes, who avoided harming them unnecessarily, and who made proper offerings at Inari shrines, were much less likely to face supernatural retribution. In Japanese magical thinking, knowing a supernatural being's true name gave one power over it. If a person could discover and speak a kitsune's real name, the spirit would be compelled to reveal its true form and could be bound to fulfill requests or promises. However, this power cut both ways. A kitsune who learned a human's true name gained similar power over them. This belief led to elaborate social protocols around name-giving and name-keeping, with many people using false names when encountering strangers or traveling in areas known for supernatural activity. The power of words extended to poetry and riddles. A cleverly composed poem or a well-crafted riddle could trap a kitsune or force it to reveal information. Conversely, these spirits were master wordsmiths themselves, often using verbal cleverness to escape difficult situations or to trap unwary humans in supernatural contracts. As Japan modernized, traditional protection methods evolved to incorporate new technologies and social structures. Urban dwellers might keep photographs of Inari shrines in their homes, or might use electronic devices in ways believed to disrupt supernatural interference. Modern Japanese culture also developed more psychological approaches to dealing with supernatural encounters. Rather than viewing kitsune as external threats, some contemporary interpretations see them as manifestations of internal psychological states, projections of guilt, desire, or unresolved emotional conflicts. The most sophisticated modern approach combines traditional wisdom with contemporary understanding, acknowledging that supernatural experiences might be both psychologically meaningful and culturally significant, regardless of their objective reality. The rich tradition of kitsune stories found expression in virtually every form of Japanese art, from ancient court literature to elaborate theatrical productions. The No theater, with its emphasis on supernatural themes and spiritual transformation, proved particularly well-suited to fox spirit stories. In No plays featuring kitsune, the supernatural nature of the characters was often expressed through masks and stylized movement. A kitsune character might begin a performance appearing fully human, only to gradually reveal their true nature through increasingly fox-like gestures and vocalizations. The most successful theatrical kitsune stories were those that focused on the emotional complexity of these beings, their capacity for love, their struggle with divided loyalties, their pain at being unable to fully belong to either the human or spirit worlds. Kabuki theater, being more accessible to common people than the refined No tradition, developed its own distinctive approaches to kitsune stories. These productions often emphasized the more dramatic and sensational aspects, elaborate transformation scenes, supernatural battles, and spectacular visual effects. The ukiyo-e tradition of woodblock printing produced some of the most iconic visual representations of kitsune. Artists like Hokusai and Kuniyoshi created prints that captured both the beauty and the otherworldly nature of fox spirits. These artistic representations often incorporated symbolic elements that would have been immediately recognizable to Japanese viewers. Specific flowers associated with spiritual transformation, particular color combinations that indicated supernatural nature, or background elements that suggested the liminal spaces where humans and spirits might encounter each other. Some woodblock print series told complete Kitsune stories through sequences of images, creating early forms of visual narrative that would later influence manga and anime. These series allowed artists to explore the dramatic potential of transformation scenes and supernatural encounters. In written literature, Kitsune appeared in works ranging from court poetry to popular fiction. The classical poetry tradition, tanka and haiku, often used fox imagery to evoke themes of deception, beauty, transformation, and the relationship between wild and civilized life. In longer narrative works, Kitsune served as complex metaphors for various aspects of human experience. They might represent the untamed aspects of sexuality, the danger of unchecked ambition, or the pain of existing between two worlds or identities. The most sophisticated literary treatments of Kitsune explored philosophical questions about identity, reality, and the nature of consciousness. If a fox perfectly imitates human behavior for years, what is the meaningful difference between the fox and a human? These questions became central to some of Japan's most profound literary works. In modern times, Kitsune have found new expression in anime, manga, video games, and digital media. Characters inspired by fox spirits appear in works ranging from children's entertainment to sophisticated adult fiction. The global popularity of Japanese media has introduced Kitsune to international audiences, where they have been adapted and reinterpreted through different cultural lenses. Western depictions of Kitsune often emphasize different aspects of their nature than traditional Japanese stories. Video games have provided new ways of experiencing Kitsune stories, allowing players to make choices that affect the outcome of supernatural encounters. These interactive narratives often explore the moral complexity of dealing with beings whose motivations and moral frameworks differ from human ones. As technology continues to evolve, so do the ways in which Kitsune stories are told and experienced. Virtual reality, augmented reality, and other emerging technologies offer possibilities for even more immersive encounters with these ancient spirits of transformation. From a psychological perspective, Kitsune represent several powerful archetypal patterns that appear in cultures worldwide. The shapeshifter, the trickster, the wise guide, and the dangerous seducer are all universal human psychological constructs that find particular expression in Japanese fox mythology. The shape-shifting ability of Kitsune can be understood as a metaphor for psychological transformation and personal growth. Just as the fox spirit moves between forms, humans must learn to adapt and change as they move through different life circumstances and developmental stages. Carl Jung would likely have identified Kitsune as powerful shadow figures, representations of the aspects of human nature that are often repressed or denied. The trickster fox embodies impulses toward mischief, sexuality, and chaos that civilized society typically tries to control. The frequent appearance of Kitsune in feminine form, especially as seductive women, connects them to the archetypal anima, the feminine aspect of the male psyche. These fox women represent both the allure of the unknown feminine and the fear of being overwhelmed by forces beyond rational control. Many Kitsune stories serve clear educational functions, teaching important lessons about behavior, morality, and social relationships. Tales of greedy merchants being tricked by fox spirits reinforce values of honesty and fairness, while stories of kind farmers being rewarded emphasize the importance of compassion. Fox spirits also help define cultural boundaries between human and animal, civilized and wild, sacred and profane. By embodying the transgression of these boundaries, Kitsune stories help clarify what it means to be properly human within Japanese cultural context. The emotional intensity of many Kitsune tales, particularly the tragic foxwife stories, provides opportunities for cathartic release of feelings that might be difficult to express in everyday social contexts. Grief, longing, and the pain of separation find socially acceptable expression through these mythological narratives. The continuing evolution of Kitsune stories demonstrates their adaptive power, their ability to address new cultural concerns while maintaining their essential psychological and spiritual functions. This adaptability helps explain their persistence through centuries of social change. Spiritually, Kitsune represent liminal beings, creatures that exist at the threshold between different states of existence. They embody the possibility of transcending ordinary limitations, of moving between worlds that are usually kept separate. The association between age and wisdom in Kitsune lore reflects deep philosophical principles about the nature of knowledge and understanding. True wisdom cannot be gained quickly, but must be earned through long experience and careful observation of the world's complexity. The role of benevolent Kitsune as messengers and servants of Inari reflects ideals of spiritual service and devotion. These fox spirits demonstrate that true power is found not in domination, but in willing service to higher principles. At their deepest level, Kitsune stories explore the possibility of integration, of finding harmony between seemingly opposing forces. The most successful human Kitsune relationships in folklore are those where differences are accepted and complementary rather than conquered or denied. In contemporary life, Kitsune symbolism remains remarkably relevant. In an era of fluid identities and rapid change, the shape-shifting fox spirit serves as a powerful metaphor for adaptability and authenticity. The increasing importance of digital identity and virtual relationships gives new meaning to stories of beings who exist between different planes of reality. Online personas and digital avatars echo the Kitsune's ability to present different faces to the world. As human societies grapple with environmental destruction and the loss of wild spaces, Kitsune stories remind us of the complex relationship between civilization and nature. These spirits represent the wild wisdom that human cultures ignore at their peril. Modern therapeutic approaches sometimes draw on mythological and archetypal imagery to help individuals understand and integrate different aspects of their personalities. Kitsune, with their complex duality and transformative power, provide rich material for such therapeutic work. No discussion of Kitsune would be complete without exploring Fushimi Inari Taisha, the head shrine of all Inari shrines in Japan. Located in Kyoto, this sacred site is famous throughout the world for its thousands of vermilion torii gates that create tunnels winding up the mountainside. Founded in 711 CE, Fushimi Inari has been a site of fox worship for over 13 centuries. The mountain itself, Mount Inari, is said to be the place where the kami Inari first descended from heaven to earth, establishing the eternal connection between the divine realm and the world of humans. Imagine walking through the tunnels formed by thousands of torii gates, each one donated by individuals or businesses seeking Inari's blessings for prosperity and success. The vermilion color creates a warm, otherworldly glow, while the sound of your footsteps echoes mysteriously in the enclosed spaces. Throughout the shrine complex, hundreds of fox statues watch over visitors. These Kitsune guardians come in all sizes and styles, some ancient and weathered, others newly carved and bright. Many hold keys in their mouths, symbolizing their role as keepers of the rice granaries that ensure prosperity. The path up Mount Inari is not merely a tourist route, but a genuine pilgrimage trail. As visitors climb higher, the crowds thin out, and the experience becomes increasingly meditative and spiritual. The full journey to the summit takes several hours and passes numerous smaller shrines and sacred sites. Along the way, pilgrims leave offerings of sake, rice, and especially inari zushi, pouches of fried tofu filled with seasoned rice, said to be the favorite food of fox spirits. These offerings represent not just requests for divine favor, but genuine gratitude for blessings received. Many visitors report profound spiritual experiences during their pilgrimage, moments of clarity, feelings of connection to something greater than themselves, or encounters that seem to border on the supernatural. The mountain itself seems alive with spiritual energy. The most adventurous pilgrims climb the mountain at night, when the experience becomes even more otherworldly. In the darkness, with only small lamps to light the way, the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds seems particularly thin. Some report glimpsing foxfire dancing between the trees. While Fushimi Inari is the most famous, there are over 30,000 Inari shrines throughout Japan, each with its own character and local traditions. Some are grand establishments in major cities. Others are tiny roadside shrines tended by single families for generations. In rural areas, many Inari shrines maintain strong connections to their agricultural origins. Spring rituals ask for good planting weather. Summer ceremonies seek protection from pests and diseases. Autumn festivals celebrate successful harvests, and winter observances prepare for the dormant season. Urban shrines often focus more on Inari's role as a deity of business success and general prosperity. Company executives make regular visits to pray for profitable ventures, while students seek divine help with examinations and job searches. Some of the most touching shrine practices are the small, personal rituals performed by individuals seeking help with family problems, health concerns, or life transitions. The fox statues at these shrines often receive personal offerings, toys for the Kitsune to play with, small treats, or handwritten notes explaining specific requests. Even in modern, highly technological Japan, fox spirit worship continues to evolve and adapt. Urban professionals might make quick shrine visits during lunch breaks, while maintaining traditional practices through smartphone apps that send daily spiritual reminders. The global spread of Japanese culture has led to the establishment of Inari shrines in other countries, maintained by Japanese expatriate communities or by non-Japanese individuals drawn to the spiritual tradition. These international shrines adapt traditional practices to new cultural contexts. Modern Kitsune spirituality often incorporates elements from other traditions, Buddhist meditation practices, New Age spiritual techniques, or even psychological approaches to personal development. This syncretistic approach reflects the adaptive nature of fox spirit traditions. Some contemporary practitioners interpret Inari worship as a form of environmental activism, seeing the fox spirits as guardians of natural spaces that need protection from overdevelopment and pollution. These practitioners often combine traditional shrine visits with environmental conservation work. As our journey through the world of Kitsune draws toward its close, we can reflect on the profound lessons these ancient spirits offer to contemporary life. Their stories teach us about the nature of identity, the complexity of relationships, and the eternal human need for connection with forces greater than ourselves. Perhaps the most fundamental lesson of Kitsune lore is the importance of adaptability. These spirits survive and thrive precisely because they can change form, assume new identities, and adapt to changing circumstances. In our rapidly changing world, this wisdom feels particularly relevant. Yet Kitsune stories also warn about the dangers of completely abandoning one's true nature. Even the most skilled shapeshifter retains essential characteristics that connect them to their original form. The most successful characters in these tales are those who find ways to be authentically themselves while adapting to new circumstances. The Foxwife stories teach us about the complexity of intimate relationships, the way love can exist across seemingly impossible differences, the importance of acceptance and understanding, and the tragedy that can result from demanding that others change their essential nature to meet our expectations. In an era when human identity itself seems increasingly fluid, when people change careers multiple times, move between different social groups, and maintain different online personas, Kitsune offer a model for managing multiplicity without losing coherence. These spirits show us that it's possible to be many things while remaining fundamentally yourself. A Kitsune can be simultaneously wild fox and devoted mother, divine messenger and mischievous trickster, ancient wisdom and youthful beauty. The key is integration rather than compartmentalization. The masks we wear in different social situations, professional, personal, family, romantic, need not be deceptions if they represent genuine aspects of our multifaceted nature. Like Kitsune, we can move between different roles while maintaining our essential integrity. The growth of additional tales as Kitsune age and gain wisdom provides a beautiful metaphor for personal development. We don't just get older. We can become more complex, more capable, more spiritually developed. Each life experience can add new dimensions to who we are. Kitsune traditions remind us that the sacred exists within ordinary experience, a glimpse of foxfire in a forest, the kindness of a stranger who appears when needed, the inexplicable sense of being watched over and protected. These experiences point toward deeper dimensions of reality. Learning to recognize the signs of Kitsune presence requires developing the kind of mindful attention that enhances all aspects of life. When we learn to really observe the world around us, we become more aware of beauty, more sensitive to nuance, more open to wonder. The traditional practices of making offerings to fox spirits teach principles of gratitude and reciprocity that extend far beyond supernatural encounters. Acknowledging the sources of our prosperity, expressing appreciation for help received, and giving back to the forces that support us are spiritual practices with practical benefits. Perhaps most importantly, Kitsune traditions teach respect for the intelligence and agency of non-human beings. In our ecological age, this perspective could hardly be more relevant. These spirits remind us that humans are not the only conscious, intentional beings in the world. The story of Kitsune is not one that belongs only to the past. These spirits continue to evolve, to adapt, to find new ways of interacting with human beings and new meanings in contemporary life. They appear in modern literature, inspire contemporary artists, and serve as spiritual guides for people seeking meaning in a rapidly changing world. By learning their stories, by visiting their shrines, by opening our hearts and minds to their teachings, we become part of this ongoing narrative. We join the countless generations of humans who have found wisdom, beauty, and spiritual nourishment in encounters with these remarkable beings. Most fundamentally, Kitsune teach us the value of mystery itself. Not everything needs to be explained, understood, or controlled. Some experiences are valuable precisely because they remain mysterious, because they point toward realities larger than our ordinary understanding can encompass. In a world that often seems determined to reduce everything to data and algorithms, fox spirits remind us to preserve space for wonder, magic, and the genuinely inexplicable. They are guardians not just of rice fields and prosperity, but of the human capacity for awe. We have encountered Kitsune in all their magnificent complexity, as divine messengers and mischievous tricksters, as devoted mothers and dangerous seducers, as wise guides and cautionary warnings. Through their stories, we have explored fundamental questions about identity, love, transformation, and the nature of reality itself. Perhaps most importantly, we have learned to see the world through fox spirit eyes, to perceive the magic that exists within ordinary experience, to recognize the intelligence and intentionality that permeates the natural world, to appreciate the beauty that can be found in transformation and change. Imagine now that you are walking through a darkened forest, much like the one we envisioned at the beginning of our journey. But now, having learned the stories and wisdom of the Kitsune, you see with different eyes. That flickering light between the trees is no longer just a mystery, but an invitation, a sign that other worlds exist alongside our own. You have learned that whether such lights lead to blessing or danger depends largely on the intentions and character you bring to the encounter. Approach with respect, humility, and openness, and you may find guidance and protection. Approach with greed, arrogance, or malice, and you may discover why fox spirits have earned their reputation as formidable tricksters. The foxfire dances ahead of you, neither leading you astray nor guaranteeing your safety, but offering something perhaps more valuable, the opportunity to participate in the eternal dance between the known and unknown, the human and the wild, the mortal and the divine. As we conclude this exploration, we become carriers of these ancient stories, inheritors of wisdom that has been passed down through countless generations. With this inheritance comes responsibility to preserve the stories, to understand their deeper meanings, and to find ways of applying their wisdom to our contemporary lives. Like the Kitsune themselves, these stories gain power through sharing. They are not meant to be hoarded, but to be told and retold, adapted and reinterpreted for each new generation and each new cultural context. Each person who encounters these tales will find in them different meanings, different insights, different sources of comfort or challenge. This is as it should be. The mark of truly powerful mythology is its ability to speak to individuals while addressing universal human concerns. The stories of Kitsune will continue to evolve, as they have throughout their long history. New forms of media will find new ways to tell these ancient tales. New generations will discover new meanings in old symbols, and new encounters between the human and more than human worlds will add new chapters to this ongoing narrative. As you prepare to rest and perhaps to dream, imagine that you carry with you the blessing of a nine-tailed Kitsune. Not the dangerous Tamamo-no-Mae, but one of the wise Zenko, the celestial foxes whose power has been tempered by compassion and whose wisdom has been earned through centuries of patient observation. This blessing brings gifts, the ability to adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining your essential authenticity, the wisdom to recognize both opportunity and danger in the unexpected encounters life brings, and the spiritual sensitivity to perceive the sacred within the ordinary. It offers protection, the fox spirit's ability to see through deceptions and illusions, the quick wit to escape from dangerous situations, and the spiritual connections that can provide guidance when human wisdom proves insufficient. Most of all, it brings the promise of transformation, not the loss of yourself, but the discovery of new aspects of who you might become. Like the Kitsune who grow additional tails with age and wisdom, you too can become more than you are now, developing new capacities while honoring your essential nature. As all true spiritual journeys must, our exploration of Kitsune lore brings us back to where we began, but we return transformed, carrying new understanding and deeper appreciation for the mystery and magic that surrounds us always. like the seasonal festivals that mark the turning of the year at Inari shrines, like the cycles of planting and harvest that first brought foxes and humans together, like the endless dance of day and night that provides the rhythm for all earthly existence. Our encounter with these spirits reminds us that all true wisdom is cyclical. We return again and again to the same fundamental truths, each time understanding them more deeply. And so, as the foxfire fades into the gentle darkness of approaching sleep, as the last echoes of ancient stories settle into the quiet chambers of your heart, rest in the knowledge that you have been touched by something both timeless and alive, both utterly wild and infinitely wise. May your dreams be filled with the russet flash of fox fur and dappled sunlight, with the sound of temple bells carried on mountain winds, with the warm glow of shrine lanterns welcoming you home. May you wake refreshed and renewed, carrying within you the adaptive wisdom of the shapeshifter, the playful spirit of the trickster, and the deep compassion of those who serve as bridges between worlds. For in the end, we are all a little like Kitsune ourselves, beings caught between worlds, learning to navigate the complexity of existence with whatever wisdom we can gather, hoping to grow not just older, but wiser, not just larger, but more loving. And in this shared condition, we find the true gift of these ancient stories, not just entertainment for the mind, but nourishment for the soul. As we close of this story, remember to like, subscribe. Also comment what other stories you would like to hear and what you thought about this story.